Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Marie-Claude Levielle. I'm from Heyday, and I am very blessed to be joined by a rockstar panel today. So we have LeadMeryem Abou, who leads the CX and marketing automation practice at Adviso. And also from Adviso, we have Maxime Philippon, who does CRM strategy at Adviso as well. Guys, thanks so much for being here today. And we also have from the Heyday side, Christine Dupuis, who's our VP of Product Management. So thank you as well for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.
So we have, of course. So we have a few kind of key questions today that I think everybody's going to be interested in hearing about. So I'm going to dive right into it because I think we have a lot to talk about. So first and foremost, let's kick this off with automation. And so we know that automation in marketing isn't something that's particularly new, but from the Adviso side, what are the most innovative ways that you've seen automation be applied by your clients within the last few months?
Hey, that's an interesting question. Because so it's not really like new for a lot of clients, but also in the meantime, we see that there are a lot of our clients are coming to ask us some help in terms of like setting up their automation strategy. And what we see is that personalization is becoming a big stake, something very important. And the thing is, a lot of the companies are not necessarily geared to be able to do personalization. So often what we see is they need help in terms of setting up their stack and defining their strategy so that they can start really doing like that scaled automation. I feel like sometimes there's a lack of having defined the strategy in the first place. They sometimes like come to us and they don't know exactly what they want to do. They know they want to do personalization and that they want to use automation to do it because obviously when you have like millions of customers, you need to automate that to be able to personalize to each customer. But sometimes that vision is not there. So our role often is really to help them build that vision and that strategy and then defining what it will take them to be able to activate that. I think there's also this interesting point that historically automation is very tied to emailing. And it's becoming more and more important for other channels. So we see a lot of brands are interested in terms of adding push notification, automation, chatbots, and like automating the conversational chatbots. And there are also other ways that marketing automation is applied. So often it's going to be for things like product recommendation or even like in terms of segmenting better their database. So I think that these are some of the ways that we've seen it applied to our clients. And another way that is often tried in terms of automation is they'll try to do more content, like the automating the content that's going to be in their touch point so that it's very personalized to each customer. There are also a way we've seen that with a couple of our clients where they want to use automation more for their A/B testing because they have complex rules that they want to manage, and automation is really going to help them best set up the A/B test, so sending the right message to their pools that they're trying to test. So yeah, I would say that these are some of the ways that automation is being applied.
That's great. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm gonna pass it off to Christine in a second. But I really like what you mentioned about, you know, your clients coming to you for advice on how to do this, and I think that's really key because, you know, brands and people in the e-commerce space, their expertise isn't necessarily automation and stuff like that, right? And that's why players like Adviso are so important, because that is what you specialize in, right? And so that's why they kind of look to you to implement the best strategy possible. I guess one really quick follow-up question I have for you, Maxime, is why do you think that personalization is so important? Like you focused on personalization a couple of times. I have my own theories on why it's so important, but I'd love to hear it from you.
So what we've seen is personalized experience, especially personalized marketing experience, drives more revenue. And that makes sense because the more communication is going to be personalized and the more you're going to resonate as a customer. So what happens is personalized, so let's say emails or even conversations are going to perform better, and in turn, they're going to drive more revenue.
For sure. And I think that's what kind of ultimately sets one brand apart from the next brand, right? If you can go to one brand and they're giving you that personalized experience and the other one isn't, then it's kind of a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. And Christine, do you have like a specific customer story or a reference that you can think of in terms of automation in marketing?
Yeah, I was just hearing Maxime speak, and you know, we have a great example of all of these things just to kind of illustrate to the audience what that can actually look like, that automation and personalization at scale. We did a campaign with Makeup Forever where we were running ads on Facebook and social media, and instead of having your users land on a generic landing page, which is not necessarily personalized that much, everybody lands on the same page, you can have your users land in a chatbot, for example. So everybody's going to have a slightly different conversation. And I heard Maxime mention also like recommendations. I love when I see in the chatbots the kind of product recommendation quizzes. So what we did with Makeup Forever, essentially it was a makeup campaign for a foundation. And when you would land in the chatbot would ask you questions about the type of skin that you have and those kind of the questions to really get you to recommend the best type of foundation for you. So it's a great example of putting all these things together, and it's not just about that outreach, right? You can also personalize the entire journey where you land and that conversion. So I just had that example in mind.
I love that example, and especially for makeup and beauty, it's such a specific, very personal product. Like there's all sorts of skin tones, there's different skin textures, you know, like I think anybody that's ever used makeup can relate. Like there's thousands of different products, very, very specific choices. So having that personalized experience, especially for products like that is super, super important. Thank you so much, Christine. Myriam, I don't know if you had anything to add to that before we move forward.
Well, there is something interesting in your question. There is two keywords, automation and innovative. And we talked a lot about personalization. And today, there are a lot of studies that show that 80%, actually, more than 80% of customers want personalization with their brands, will prefer to work with some brands that will offer personalization. And this personalization could come from promotion or content that is more personalized, communication that is more personalized. But the tricky part in this innovative part is that you will find this innovation at clients with fairly high maturity level. It means that they have a deep understanding of their customers and their first-party data, and there is a strong data culture and a real understanding of the journey of their customers. So a lot of clients want to do personalization, wants to be innovative, and they have big ambitions. But it's not that easy to implement personalization from one day to another. There is different steps and different level of maturity. Our clients have always had an acquisition focus in the last few years. And since the pandemic and the disappearance of the cookies, there has been a shift that has begun in their vision and in their growth strategies. Our clients are turning more and more to wanting to work on their retention and be more in control and better master their data. For this, we help a lot of them. Actually, as Maxime said earlier, to optimize their stack tech. This past few months, we saw a lot of this need actually, and so they want to optimize their stack tech to better understand the data, and then to be able to implement some data strategies and to be able to analyze and optimize the basic requirements in email marketing or marketing automation. Many of our clients are still in this early stage of the maturity curve in terms of personalization with others, and who have managed to get ahead. And others who managed to get ahead or have already started the process are only in a stage of maturity that is around segmentation and behavior recommendation. And there are still other level of maturity in this personalization world.
For sure. I could talk about this topic for literally hours, but one thing I do want to say before I move forward to our next question is the death of the cookies, which I think is really, really interesting, because in terms of personalization now, you don't have that option anymore, right? So the question is how do you keep getting that information from your clients? How do you keep doing a personalized experience without those cookies, right? So you have to now find new and creative ways to do it. And I mean, of course, I'm with Heyday, so I'm going to say, hey, that a quiz through the chatbot is an amazing way to do it when you don't have access to cookies. So just wanted to touch base on that before we move forward. But thanks for that. Moving on to the second question here, more on the marketing front as well. So I feel like every marketer kind of knows that personalization, as we're talking about, is really the holy grail of on-point targeting, just to kind of loop back to what we were talking about, and creating those stellar customer experiences, whether that's online or offline. So I'm going to ask Adviso first as well, but in your view, what does great personalization look like? What are some key things when you think, oh, wow, this is a next level personalization experience? Do you have some brands that come top of mind that are doing this really well?
If I can start, once again, to be able to do real personalization, brands will need to have a good understanding of their customer and their journey. And the culture needs to be very customer-centric. There is a great article from McKinsey talking about personalization that drives growth, and to scale it, companies need to figure out 4 things. The first one is to take a journey lens, so use behavior data to find the value. The second step is to listen and respond, plan in advance to react quickly to customer signals. The third step is to be able to have this power team that will, in a small group of right people that will really understand and optimize those strategies. And the final one is rewire and hardwire, focus on the process and technology that will help teams work faster. And in terms of personalization, I have 3 brands. One of them, I work for them, Groupon, that are doing now personalization based on the algorithm. So it's there is an algorithm that works to personalize your experience on the website and emails based on what you see and what you have bought. Otherwise, Medium, the blog, medium.com, that do a very good work on that side too.
That's great. Maxime, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think I'd say so. To me, really great experiences, like great personalization, is going to create experiences that don't seem to be personalized. If you see it, it didn't work. If it feels automated, you're just like not connecting with the brand the same way. So in a way, personalization that works well, and I like to say it creates wow and awe moments, because basically it's really going to trigger emotions into consumers, and it's going to bring value to them. So what's important when we create personalized experience is always to try and make sure we are talking to the right person with that right message, and that it's really done at the right time if you want to have these wow and awe moments. Something that we see is that, personalization, we said it's something big, so you're not going to have like an amazing personalized experience from A to Z tomorrow if you're just starting. But the thing with personalization is it works best if the complete customer experience is flawless. So I know Myriam mentioned just before about how companies, especially here in Quebec and maybe also in the rest of Canada, are very focused on acquisition, and that's like what they're trying to put all their money in. But what we see is sometimes the acquisition experience, even in terms of personalization, is going to be very excellent. But then the moment you provide your email address and then you start kind of like entering that retention part of the funnel, well, the experience sometimes sucks. And like the messaging is off, you don't get like the promo that really appeals to you. So like you've also had these types of ads, retargeting ads that you're getting, and you're just like, but I just bought that product. Why are you still like marketing me with these ads? So it's important to always have like a personalization experience that follows the entire customer journey. So yeah. I think I have a funny story. I don't know if I'll want to share it afterwards, but I definitely want to tell you about that. So,
Sounds good.
I was marketed with Touchy bidet. So they're bidets basically,
Yes.
and they're
Yeah.
super popular. I've had like tons of ads, and I finally I was curious, so I kind of like gave my email address and then started to receive all these communication. The ads were extremely personalized to me. And it was funny. Honestly, for something like a bidet, you have to be funny if you want to sell it, because it's
Absolutely.
definitely not like the most exciting product. And Tushy is a great brand in terms of personalization, because they really gear toward like different groups of their audiences, and they'll advise you for that best product for you. But the thing is, it was amazing, and I ended up buying the product, but I really had that experience of like being targeted with other emails and ads about like buying that same product that I just bought. But I mean, how many bidets do you need in your place? And that was just like a good use case for me to explain how it's important to, yes, work on the acquisition, but also focus on the retention of your customer base, because obviously you want to have a good first purchase. But what's important for brands now, and especially in that cookie apocalypse era that we're in, you definitely need to work on like retaining customer and building excellent customer experience for that matter. So I think that's like that was my story with vedettes and personalization. But another way that I think that personalization can be great is when silos are being broken down, especially between marketing and product. What we see sometimes is there's going to be a high level of personalization on product pages on the website, but less in terms of like the email personalization or the chat personalization. That's areas where it's going to be a bit weaker. So the overall customer experience is going to be a bit broken down. And obviously, it's very important to have, especially for e-commerce brands, it's very important to have personalized pages when people are shopping. But we know that, like, obviously, not all sessions convert into a purchase. So the rest of the marketing journey needs to be really personalized to make it attracting to customers.
For sure, that's great. Two things I want to touch base here before we quickly go on to the next question, because I feel like, yeah, we all love to talk. We're all Canadian. We all like to talk. So one thing I think that stood out to me is you have to personalize without the user knowing that the brand is really putting in all this effort to personalize, right? Like it's almost like trying to feed a 2-year-old broccoli and you're putting a bunch of cheese on it so that they don't know it's broccoli, right? Like I feel like that's a really crazy anecdote, I feel like, but that's kind of how you have to do it, you know? It can't feel sleazy. It can't feel like, oh, they're really trying to get me, you know? So I think that's really the key, is trying to find the most kind of natural way, which I think is really important. And the second thing is retention. Like, you put so much effort into acquiring a client for the first time. If you're not working on having them come back a second, third, fourth time, you've wasted all that money and all that effort. You know what I mean? I kind of have this game that I play with myself. Like, when I get targeted with something that they got completely wrong, I feel like I'm winning. It's like, I beat you, you know, you didn't get me. So it's how do you not do that, right? Like, how do you invest your time and your resources wisely so that you're able to create that retention experience that actually makes sense, unlike targeting them with the product they just bought. So just kind of echoing what you said, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. And Christine, just to follow up to that, how, in your experience, how does the chatbot help with personalization? I think we've touched base on it a little bit, but just to add to that.
Yeah, I think it can be a little counterintuitive because people think, you know, it's obvious that it's a chatbot. It's kind of the same chatbot for everybody. So it seems like, well, if I'm trying to personalize and make it really seamless, why would I want a chatbot, right? But the thing is, like we were talking about cookies earlier, consumers don't want to give out their data anymore. They don't want to be targeted by ads. They want to get value. And if you have something to give me, I will tell you something about me. So that's where the chatbot is really interesting, because it's an engaging experience. It's a back and forth. So if I come back to my makeup example earlier, or we have these quizzes for people who want to work out and they want to know what type of protein or vitamin they should buy, now I want your advice. So I am willing to disclose about myself, if I'm a man or woman, what is my age, my weight, what I'm looking for, right? So it's all a matter of giving value in exchange of the data. So similarly to how the brand wants to show you the right message at the right time, they should also ask you for the right information in the right context. And that's where the chatbot is really, really powerful for these things. So that's number one. Number two, there's still people, right, behind it. The chatbot is not going to handle everything. And this one, I think people think less about it a little bit because it's a human personalization. But if your chatbot is there to answer all the easy questions of, do you ship to Canada? Are you open? What's the closest store? Now you've just freed up your staff to really give a great experience to those people. So I think, you know, don't discard the chatbot too quickly in the value and personalization journey, because it is extremely, extremely powerful. And another thing that was mentioned earlier on this panel was the difficulty of getting started and doing it along the entire journey. And things like Chatbot, they're an easy addition to your tech stack where you can just add it on top of everything you have on your website and it's there. So anyway, of course, preaching for our choir here, but there is a ton of value exchange between the chatbot and the consumer, and that benefits the brand ultimately.
Yeah. And if I can add...
Yeah, go ahead.
We all want to talk, if I can add, because I had so many clients who we wanted to, like, we recommended like a chatbot or just a chat interface. And often clients or brands thinks that is complicated to implement, but it's not. And for every for a chatbot, there is, and you will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is different stage of using a chatbot, and that can evolve. And for example, you were, Christine, saying that the chatbot can answer the easy question to let the customer service treat the most important one and offer a great experience. So brands will save money on like questions that are not valuable for the company, but will help, like, will be easier for the customer. But it's very important to understand also that implementing those new tools, there is steps. And sometimes clients like have big ambitions, and when they think about chatbot, they want like the star pack, the golden pack. And yeah, the golden pack from one day to another, it's pretty hard to just like implement it and like change everything in processes. But you can do it step by step, and will help you like optimize your customer experience. It's pretty much the same for everything. It's like personalization, automation. We always hear clients want to do like the golden pack and personalize everything from A to Z from one day to another, but you need to do it like, step by step, I think.
Maybe if I can add here.
Go ahead, Christine. No, go ahead.
I just want to show the range, of what Myriam is saying. For example, like at Heyday, we have a Shopify app. You click, you install it. It's literally 1 minute. Of course, that's not the experience that I'm describing that we have for Makeup Forever with the detailed quiz, right? There are different levels. So it can go from a 1 minute, 2 minute thing to multiple weeks where you really think through your entire strategy and craft something a lot more deep as an experience. But there's a really broad range of things, and over time, they're not new anymore, right? Like there's tons of chatbots out there, and so I would say that's a great way to get started and to free up some of your time to then spend more time on your strategy and being a bit more agile about it. So that's just a tip there.
And every brand will have different requirements based on what works for them as a company, the resources they have, what makes sense to their clients as well, right? So I think that's why it's important to have kind of a flexible tool, like a hybrid tool as well, that can do AI chatbot, that can also do a live agent. Because I think 2 years into the pandemic and having been at home for a lot of it, we kind of crave that human experience sometimes as well. Like we used to be able to walk in a store and be like, hey, can you tell me about this camera? Or like, have those questions. And so we're still human beings at the end of the day. So of course it's nice to free up your resources with automation, but having that option to transfer to an actual human being, oh my God, an actual human being, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, and to go back to what Christine was saying, I love chatbots because it's indeed a great way to collect that data. And often it's kind of, I see brands they don't really know how to collect that data and how to ask questions. And that's where I think the power of BrandSkin is so important, because often it's important because we're trying to create conversation to ask that information and to provide the advice really using the brand tone of voice and finding the good tone of voice to ask those questions. So if like you're a brand that is I'll take the example of Tushy. They are always making small jokes when they are talking, and that's a good way to kind of create that relationship with people so they feel more comfortable sharing the information. I feel like sometimes we underestimate the power of the brand's tone of voice and how it can help us collect that data. And the data collection is so cornerstone, because without that data collection, there's no personalization afterwards. So I really enjoyed, Christine, what you were mentioning about how these chatbots can be effective in terms of like collecting that data and personalization.
That's great. Thank you so much, Maxime. That's awesome context. I'm gonna move on to the next question just because we're gonna run out of time. So we're gonna do some kind of quick fire questions here. So the next question I have for you guys is really that there's kind of a misconception that automation can be really expensive and time consuming, and that it's something that only really big brands should focus on because only big brands have the resources to deal with that. But not all growth strategists and CX leaders agree with this. So I'm asking you on the Adviso side, what's your take on this? Is it really an expensive, time consuming thing that's really just for the big guys? Marie-Claude, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So Maxime going ahead. That's why. Once again, for me, brands that want to start automation have often like ambition that are too high for their reality, and that's why they think that is complex and it's costs a lot because their ambition are too big. The key steps here is the planification of this automation, the planification of your strategy, like really taking the time to think about what's your goal, what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve that, and having like being real about your resources. Company needs to start by answering the question like what they want to do. Do they have the tools also to do it? And just think from where to start. And this is planification. And planification, honestly, in all types of digital projects at Adviso, we say it's like every day. It's always the part that we want to skip because it's the part that you need to take time, analyze, understand, think, and then prioritize and be real about what you can do or not. And this is always the step that is skipped, and it's the most important one.
Yeah, and just kind of from our side here, Christine, we actually met when you launched the Shopify app when I was still working at Shopify, and this app basically gave Shopify merchants access to AI-powered chat in a minute, like you just said, and like in a very affordable way. So can you actually touch base a little bit about that strategy and what was behind that?
Yeah. So being the leader of the product team, we definitely have a very kind of agile mindset. So I'm a big fan of multi-step strategies, right? So you want to automate. Maybe you have an end goal in mind. That's your North Star. But what can you do today? And it's easy to get lost in all the different options. Being data-driven typically is a good idea. Everybody has a door open for their customers, whether it's the phone, the email. You have a source of data internally somewhere that will tell you what is the most common question, what is the most common problem that your customers have. So that's a great place to start. And, do it in small steps. Step one, figure out where a lot of the volume is coming from, what you can kind of remove from your plate and create more capacity. And then step two, you look at how that's working. And then what can you add on top of that? What will add more value? And, there's different steps of the customer journey. We talked about acquisition, retention. So don't try to do it all at the same time. Use the data to get started. And so that was a little bit the philosophy behind the app. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the app is great for somebody who just wants to get started. It's very basic. I'm going to be transparent. It's not for everybody. And first of all, you do need a decent amount of volume. Let's be honest. Like if you're going to pay for an AI solution and you're receiving 2-3 calls a day, maybe you just want to pick up the phone and take those 5 minutes to talk to your customer, right? So I want to be transparent. You need a certain amount of volume to see the value, but the value is ongoing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't get intimidated by the initial step or the getting started phase or the potential cost of it, because as soon as you get started, you will start seeing pockets of value, and then you can build on top of that. So again, that was the philosophy behind the app. Let's give something in people's hand. We took our chatbot, which is very complex. It has a lot of features and integrations in it. For example, you can book an appointment, and that's like a whole integration with an appointment booking system, right? But in Shopify, we have the basics. So Shopify allows us to do order tracking and product recommendations. And looking at the data, those are the 2 questions that people have the most often, right? One is the post-sales question of where's my package? I'm still waiting for it. And one is the pre-sales question of I need some guidance. And we know that customers want guidance when they're choosing a product. So we looked at the data. We picked the most common 2 cases. We built a small app. So even me as a product manager, that's the philosophy that I use. And now we plan on, of course, building that app up and making it even more relevant for the bigger brands in the Shopify Plus space and in those areas.
I love the app. So the first thing I did when I joined Heyday is get a test store on Shopify, add the app, play around with it. And I think you're kind of like downplaying it. There's actually so much that you can do with it. Like the most important things, order tracking, product recommendations, boom, like that's already happening right upon installation. You can quickly add your facts. Like all of the most important things are there, and it's so easy to use. So I don't want us to discount how powerful the app is, although I understand your point on, us being able to do even more than that for people with bigger requirements. So thanks for that, Christine. I'm going to move on to the next question, and I'm going to switch it up en français for the last couple of questions. Donc, je vais poser des questions en français pour ajouter un peu de variété, vu qu'on est de Montréal. Donc, la prochaine question, je vais la poser à Adviso en premier encore une fois. Donc, en termes de technologie d'automatisation, selon votre expérience, quels sont les éléments incontournables pour le tech stack, pour les leaders en marketing et en e-commerce?
Je vais laisser Maxime, après moi, parler un peu plus des technologies en soi. Mais avant de parler de technologie à proprement dit, je pense qu'il y a quelque chose qui est très important, c'est de penser à votre stratégie avant de penser à vos outils. On voit beaucoup trop en ce moment, justement, un gros re-questionnement sur le stack techno que nos clients possèdent, des stacks technologiques qui des fois sont très complexes parce que au fur et à mesure du temps, on a ajouté des technologies pour venir répondre à un besoin en particulier, mais sans penser, sans avoir une stratégie derrière, à essayer de prendre le temps. Encore une fois, tout revient à la planification, justement, de planifier notre stratégie de collecte de données, notre stratégie de comment je vais utiliser mes outils pour pouvoir automatiser, pour pouvoir communiquer. On prend pas le temps, donc on ajoute au fur et à mesure que le besoin se crée. Puis on complexifie par moment un peu trop l'écosystème technologique qu'on possède. Puis il faut surtout comprendre qu'une technologie n'est pas là pour répondre à un problème. Une technologie va venir aider les marques à mettre en place des stratégies pour pouvoir justement pour pouvoir répondre à un besoin, pour pouvoir répondre à un problème, soit de faciliter, automatiser, communiquer. Donc, il y a cette petite, nuance à avoir. Pensez toujours à planifier, mettre en place sa stratégie, puis optimiser ou construire, développer son écosystème technologique. Puis, je vais laisser Maxime parler des technologies, justement, ça.
Juste rapidement, Myriam, juste un thème qu'on aborde plusieurs fois aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment étape par étape. C'est de pas se surcompliquer la vie avec 1000 choses. Comme on dirait en anglais, Rome wasn't built in a day. Donc, c'est vraiment d'avoir les bons building blocks au bon temps et de pas se compliquer la vie au tout début. Donc, juste pour...
Et on le dit tout le temps, on marche avant de courir. Donc, et encore,
Voilà,
avant de
exact.
marcher, on crawl. Donc,
Exact.
faut pas trop précipiter les choses. C'est là où on voit beaucoup de dépenses qui sont des fois pas justifiées, inutiles. C'est là où on voit que justement ça devient trop coûteux. Ah, mais ça a pas servi à grand chose. J'ai pas eu de valeur derrière. Ça a coûté trop cher. C'est trop compliqué. Oui, mais c'est parce qu'on a voulu peut-être aller trop vite. On a peut-être voulu prendre la grosse machine quand en fait on devait y aller étape par étape avec une technologie peut-être un petit peu moins complexe, plus à la réalité de des équipes à l'interne, que ce soit au niveau de leurs capacités, de leurs expertises, mais aussi par rapport à notre réalité d'entreprise, la structure et du modèle d'affaires qui est en train d'évoluer avant de prendre la grande Cadillac.
Absolument, la grande Cadillac. Maxime, de ton côté, qu'est-ce que tu en penses par rapport au tech stack?
Oui, mais c'est un bon point ce que Myriam amenait, la partie planification. C'est un peu difficile de dire voici ce que c'est le must-have des stacks de technologie marketing parce que ça dépend vraiment des types d'entreprises, puis on va pas forcément vouloir le même stack quand on est la même pile quand on est dans le e-commerce que quand on est une entreprise qui est très B2B. Puis je pense que ce qui est important aussi, c'est qu'avec l'évolution des plateformes, le nombre d'acteurs qui rentrent aussi sur le marché, les fonctionnalités en fait commencent de plus en plus à se retrouver dans différents types de plateformes. Fait que, aujourd'hui, par exemple, pour prendre un CDP, donc une plateforme qui va gérer toute la donnée client. On peut retrouver ça dans plein d'outils. Mettons les CRM, certains CRM incluent des CDP. Pareil pour les plateformes d'engagement, souvent il y a une partie CDP qui est intégrée, mais on peut aussi avoir un CDP complètement à part comme un segment. Donc, ce qui est important finalement, c'est plus d'aller chercher des solutions qui vont répondre à des besoins fonctionnels. Puis ces besoins fonctionnels, ben, c'est sûr que d'un point de vue technologique, aujourd'hui, ce qu'on a besoin, et c'est d'autant plus important avec la disparition des cookies, c'est d'avoir toute la donnée client à une seule et même place pour qu'on puisse ensuite la distribuer aux différentes plateformes qui vont l'utiliser. Moi, ce que j'adore, par exemple, avec la solution Heyday, c'est que ça va aller capturer de l'information sur les clients quand ils vont faire leur chat. Toutefois, cette information, pour qu'on puisse l'utiliser sur d'autres canaux, ben, il faut bien l'envoyer quelque part. Fait que ça, c'est important, justement, d'avoir un centre qui héberge toute la donnée client. Bien évidemment, sur des acteurs e-commerce, ils vont déjà avoir leur CMS qui va avoir toute la donnée produit qu'on va pouvoir utiliser après pour de la personnalisation. Cependant, parfois, quand on va vouloir connecter, mettons, avec un chat ou avec de l'emailing, ça va prendre un engin de personnalisation. Puis ça, cet engin de personnalisation, parfois on le retrouve du côté des CDP, parfois on va le retrouver plutôt dans les plateformes CRM ou les plateformes d'email marketing. Donc, ce qui est important finalement, c'est pas de dire tu as besoin d'un CDP, d'une data warehouse, d'un engin de personnalisation, d'un CRM, puis d'une plateforme d'envoi de courriel ou de gestion de l'expérience client. Ce qui est important finalement, c'est d'avoir ces fonctionnalités puis qu'elles soient bien intégrées pour pouvoir les utiliser selon les besoins de la stratégie.
Je suis vraiment d'accord. Pardon.
Vas-y, Christine, j'aimerais entendre ton côté.
Ben, je suis super d'accord avec Maxime. Il n'y a pas une bonne ou mauvaise façon de faire. Mais tu sais, si on peut aider les gens un peu à comprendre, il y a quand même deux grandes familles de façons de faire. Donc, on peut y aller avec des plateformes très génériques. On a des Salesforce, des HubSpot, des plateformes comme Shopify qui couvrent très large, qui sont pas tout le temps faite pour un cas d'utilisation particulier ou très précis, mais qui couvre très large. Puis ça, c'est une très bonne façon de faire. Puis l'autre très bonne façon de faire, c'est d'y aller avec des outils plus spécialisés. Mais à ce moment-là, attention à l'intégration. Donc, quand on s'embarque dans les outils, là, tantôt, je parlais d'être agile puis d'y aller étape à la fois. Les outils, c'est un peu différent parce qu'on sait que c'est difficile à changer une fois qu'on a les deux mains dedans. Donc, au début, il faut se poser la question, qu'est-ce qu'on a comme ressources techniques à l'interne? C'est quoi nos grandes ambitions? Où est-ce qu'on veut aller directionnellement? Puis, en fonction de ça, adopter une des deux stratégies. Puis, à ce moment-là, ben, si on choisit l'outil générique, ben, c'est de le customiser, là, pardon, l'anglicisme, mais de l'ajuster pour que ça fonctionne à nos besoins particuliers. Puis, si on va plus du côté des intégrations, ben là, c'est de faire attention que chacun des outils qu'on choisit offre beaucoup d'intégration possible. Donc, je ramène ça un petit peu à ce qu'on fait chez Heyday. Nous, le but du chatbot, c'est qu'il soit facile à intégrer avec tout. Donc, on a des gens qui disent, moi, je veux tracker les tickets de conversation dans mon CRM, on les envoie, il n'y a pas de problème. Il y a des gens qui vont dire, bon, le système de rendez-vous de tout à l'heure. Donc l'idée, c'est d'ouvrir avec des API et de permettre toutes les intégrations. Ça, c'est notre stratégie pour la partie marketing. Pour la partie service à la clientèle, on va être le tout en un. On a le chat, le email. Tu peux tout faire sur Heyday. Donc, pas besoin de plusieurs outils. Donc, c'est de réfléchir à ces questions-là, puis de dire c'est où qu'on consolide, c'est où qu'on spécialise, puis si on spécialise pas, mais comment qu'on intègre, puis on parle aux autres joueurs dans l'écosystème.
Je vais juste ajouter un petit commentaire avant qu'on passe à la dernière question, juste pour confirmer vraiment qu'est-ce que tu dis, Christine. Lorsque j'étais à Shopify, on parlait vraiment de la stratégie 80%, 20%. Donc, on va avoir des fonctionnalités natives à l'intérieur de la solution qui vont convenir, qui sont un besoin pour jusqu'à 80% des utilisateurs. Puis peut-être qu'est-ce qui est vraiment plus pour un 20%, que seulement le 20% des utilisateurs vont utiliser, peut-être que c'est pas nécessaire. Donc, c'est vraiment d'avoir des bonnes fonctionnalités qui sont incluses, puis de choisir une solution qui va convenir à la grande majorité des besoins. Puis après, peut-être d'avoir quelque chose plus spécialisé pour le 20%. Donc, je suis entièrement d'accord. Donc, je vais finir avec une dernière question. Et je vais la poser à Christine en premier pour celle-ci. Donc, Christine, quelle tendance d'automatisation est-ce que tu t'attends à avoir en 2022? Qu'est-ce qui te rend enthousiaste pour le futur?
J'adore cette question. Bon, j'ai parlé tout à l'heure que les chatbots, c'est plus tellement nouveau. Donc là, automatiser les questions de support, tout ça, je pense que ça, c'était la trend plus de 2020, 2021. Là, ce qui s'en vient, c'est la conversion. Donc, l'histoire du quiz de tout à l'heure, les campagnes, c'est d'utiliser le chatbot pour atteindre des objectifs précis, un sign-up à une newsletter, un rendez-vous. On sait que quand les gens prennent rendez-vous, ils ont plus de chances de faire un achat parce qu'ils sont avec un conseiller spécialisé. Donc, c'est vraiment, là, on se dirige plus vers la conversion, puis pour ça, il y a toutes sortes de modèles. Là, on travaille en ce moment chez Heyday sur un modèle de prédiction, d'intention, de l'achat, par exemple. Donc là, on peut savoir, ça, c'est ton client qui discute en ce moment avec le chatbot, il pose plein de questions sur le vélo de montagne. Tu sais, peut-être lui, laisse pas le chatbot finir la discussion, puis toi, tu peux joindre la discussion proactivement parce que on détecte une intention d'achat. Donc, c'est de pousser un peu les cas d'utilisation qui étaient à l'origine beaucoup plus faciles à faire au niveau du service. Là, les FAQ, questions-réponses, ça, c'est plus facile, si je peux dire, et de se diriger vers quelque chose qui génère des conversions.
Super. Myriam, qu'est-ce que tu en penses, toi? Qu'est-ce qui te rend enthousiaste pour le futur en 2022?
Écoutez, on le voit énormément, nous, de notre côté, dans les derniers mois. C'est surtout la qualité. La première chose, parce que le reste ne peut pas venir sans. C'est la qualité de la donnée de nos consommateurs, donc la qualité de la donnée qu'on collecte. Parce que sans données, ça va être difficile de réussir à réellement atteindre certains objectifs, réellement atteindre ces objectifs de personnalisation, d'automatisation, etc. Il faut de la donnée, puis il faut la comprendre correctement avant de pouvoir prendre des décisions qui sont claires. Je pense que la deuxième chose, c'est ce switch vers la rétention pour faire justement de la croissance. On le voit de plus en plus. On avait un focus, comme je le disais au début, peut-être un petit peu trop acquisition. Là, maintenant, on commence à comprendre qu'il faut utiliser la donnée aussi qu'on collecte, qu'on essaye d'être un petit peu plus rentable sur tous nos efforts d'acquisition, justement. Puis on le voit et on est honnêtement très excité à l'idée de pouvoir enfin construire justement des stratégies qui sont avec un focus plus sur la rétention. Bien entendu, la personnalisation qui vient avec, puis qui rend les choses, disons, un petit peu plus fun finalement à travailler, de construire justement ces expériences un peu plus personnalisées. Mais bon, comme on disait tout à l'heure, il y a une courbe de maturité avant d'arriver à certains niveaux. Donc, on va y aller encore une fois étape par étape. Bien entendu, tout ce qui est conversationnel marketing, comme les chatbots, ça fait longtemps qu'on en parle. Ça prend son temps. Mais avec des acteurs justement comme Heyday, ça montre justement un petit peu l'avenir et puis jusqu'où on peut aller. Et ça, c'est vraiment intéressant. Puis je finirai sur tout ce qui est mobile marketing automation, donc tout ce qui est SMS marketing, push notification à partir des applications, les SMS survey aussi. Des tactiques qui sont peut-être encore moins présentes, je trouve, au Québec. Il y en a certains qui le font, par exemple Loufa ou certaines intégrations pour des e-commerce qui justement travaillent pas mal avec Shopify. Mais je pense que c'est des choses qu'on va voir de plus en plus dans nos services à la clientèle.
Super. Donc, qu'est-ce que j'entends, c'est vraiment personnalisation. Je pense qu'on l'a dit 75 fois durant notre chat aujourd'hui. Conversation et du mobile aussi. C'est vraiment c'est important le mobile. Et une statistique que j'ai vue récemment, c'est vraiment que 80% du temps qui est dépensé sur les téléphones portables, le mobile, et sur des canaux de conversation. Donc, c'est vraiment quelque chose de très, très intéressant. Je crois qu'on va voir de plus en plus en 2022. Et toi, Maxime, en quelques phrases pour terminer notre conversation d'aujourd'hui, qu'est-ce que tu penses qui va se passer en 2022? Qu'est-ce qui te rend enthousiaste pour cette année?
Mais moi, je suis très enthousiaste par rapport au fait que les entreprises se décident vraiment à structurer et collecter leurs données parce que ce que ça va donner, en fait, c'est que on va avoir des expériences marketing qui vont être omnichannel, donc vraiment mieux appliquées. Puis là, on va être beaucoup plus pertinent avec les clients. J'ai un petit point aussi sur l'utilisation du machine learning et de l'intelligence artificielle, où je trouve que c'est très excitant parce que ça avance. Ça a été très concentré, on va dire, ces derniers temps sur beaucoup les chatbots. Puis vous en savez quelque chose chez Heyday. Il y a un usage qui se développe aussi à côté, c'est en emailing. Puis là, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que on sait à quel point l'emailing, ça peut prendre du temps à développer, à créer des contenus. On voit que l'intelligence artificielle s'en vient aussi en emailing, tant pour de la création de contenu que pour faire du testing, de la prod, du développement. Puis le canal emailing étant le premier canal des Canadiens, le canal le plus utilisé. Ce qui est intéressant là, c'est de dire que ça va permettre d'accélérer les choses, puis ça va permettre aux marques d'utiliser davantage aussi de l'emailing qui a un très bon ROI aussi. Donc un gros focus sur la conversation en 2022, je dirais.
Tout le monde aime beaucoup parler, ça c'est certain. D'une manière ou d'une autre, on aime chatter. Donc, écoutez, merci beaucoup. On a parlé de beaucoup de beaux sujets aujourd'hui. Maxime, Myriam, Christine, merci beaucoup pour vos sujets, pour vos idées, tout ça. Donc, merci encore et à la prochaine.
Merci pour l'invitation.
À bientôt. Merci pour l'invitation.
Bien sûr. Ciao.
Bye.